All right, tonight we're having a soup which I started making probably back in the late 70s or early 80s. I first learned about mulligatawny soup from a bunch of Time Life books my mother had. And this is way before the internet, so you didn't find out about things unless it was in a book or on TV or something. And I started making mulligatawny soup. I've messed around with it many times over the years. It's been modified a bit. It's just a wonderful. It's curry, but it's a mild curry. It's not a spicy curry. Now, there's a kind of an interesting story behind mulligatawny. First of all, the name mulligatawny comes from, I believe it was a Tamil word for pepper water. And it was something that they used to make. It wasn't exactly mulligatawny, the name, it's a little different, but it sounded like that, and that's how it ended up becoming mulligatawny. What happened was when the British soldiers first went into India and all, back in the colonial days, they didn't want to give up their soup, and Indians didn't eat soup. There was no soup, but the British insisted on, well, we must have our soup course. So what they did was they took the pepper water well, it wasn't called mulligatawny then, but kind of like that, and they thinned it out with water to make a soup. And yeah, it became very popular. So it's a very British Indian dish back from the days of the Raj. And hey, great on a winter's night. So, yeah. There's kind of all kinds of interesting things in here. Like there's chicken. You can make mulligatawny with mutton too. I make it with chicken. So this is chicken mulligatawny soup. And there's things like celery in here and carrots and all. Also apple, which is always a surprise, right? It's like, oh, there's apples in here. They're not a very strong flavor because they've been cooking for a while, but it's just kind of like, this is that hint of apple back in there somewhere. Just really adds to it. And of course, there's also coconut milk in here, which is really good. So let's go in the kitchen and make some of this right now. So these are the ingredients I use when making mulligatawny soup. I think they've changed a little bit over the years from when I first started making. I started making mulligatawny soup, well, back in the 80s, I believe it was, maybe even early late 70s, early 80s, somewhere around there. So it has kind of gone through some metamorphosis. But this is what we're using today. 2 tablespoons of butter, 3 tablespoons of curry powder, 2 tablespoons of flour, a half teaspoon of salt, 1 onion chopped, 1 apple chopped. Now, all I've done is I quarter the apple, cut out the core. I like to leave the skin on, but you can peel them if you like. It's up to you. And then what I do is I take each quarter, cut it into about 3 to 4 pieces, wedges, and then cut across them. So I end up with pieces about this big. This here is 1 large stalk of celery, which has been chopped, not just cut across, but cut across and cut the other way to get into smaller pieces like this. Celery in Japan is super expensive. You're looking at the equivalency of $1 for 1 stalk of celery. So I don't use it that often, but it is really nice in this soup. All right, carrot. We've got here is 1 large carrot. It's funny, in Japan, a small country, we have huge carrots, we have huge, really huge radishes, the daikon. But still, the carrots are about like this big. So that's one big carrot, again, chopped. Here, 1 pound of chicken. This is chicken thigh meat, and again, chopped smallish pieces. These are about a half to 3/4 of an inch, or about 12 to 20 millimeters in size. Try to keep them all around that size so it cooks evenly. Here, I've got 2 cups of cooked rice. Then at the back, the liquids. All right, so here, 3 cups of chicken stock. And 2 cups, or 1 can, actually, just in a can, 15 ounce can. And that is coconut milk. Now my coconut milk is a little solid today because it's quite cold in here and it's been sitting for a while. But once it gets in here, it'll liquefy up more. So what we're going to do first of all, notice I'm using my big pot here. I'm going to put the butter in there. Gonna get that going on medium heat. And gonna melt that butter. So as soon as that butter melts, I'm gonna put the onion and the salt in there. All right, butter's melted. In goes the onion. In goes the salt. I'm gonna cook that, stirring it every once in a while for 5 minutes just to soften up the onions a bit. And then we're gonna add some more ingredients. So somebody asked me, said, why, Kevin, sometimes you use butter, sometimes you use olive oil. They're pretty interchangeable in most of my recipes. So this could use 2 tablespoons of olive oil would be just as good in here. I like the extra creaminess of butter. I like butter, so I use it quite often. If there's ever a recipe where you have to use butter or you have to use olive oil, well, I'll make sure to let you know. But in this case, yeah, either would be okay. All right, so see you in 5 minutes. All right, those onions have softened up a bit, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to add in the chicken, the carrot, the celery, and the apple. And just for about 8 to 10 minutes, cook this stirring. I'll get the chicken browned up a bit. And then we're going to add in the curry powder, the flour, and then afterwards the rice and the liquids. So I'll see you back here in about 8 to 10 minutes. All right. It's been about 8 minutes. I've been going on just stirring and digging from underneath to turn it over so everything is getting a turn at the heat. Get fried a little bit. It's not going to really brown much, but just that little bit. We're getting things started. So what I'm going to do now is going to add in the curry powder and the flour. And then I'm going to cook that, just stir it around, get it throughout, and cook that a little bit for just a minute or two. We don't really, again, like anytime with flour, we don't want to burn it or anything, but we just want to cook the rawness out of it a bit, get things started, and then in goes the liquid. So, about a minute, this will be ready. All right, that's looking and smelling good. So what I'm going to do now is add in the chicken stock. I'm just going to add some of it in at first and just see if anything's stuck to the bottom, you know, for the flour or the curry powder. Deglaze that bottom. Today it's looking pretty good. Not much down there. Everything's still up in the soup itself. So add in the rest. And I'm going to add in that rice. Now, oh, that's going to be great. I'm going to bring this up to a simmer. I want to simmer this for about 15 minutes. Just got to get that chicken cooked, and the carrots, they take a bit more cooking time. So 15 minutes, we'll be back here. We're going to add in our coconut milk, bring it back up to heat, and then we are ready for mulligatawny soup. All right, see you back here in 15. Oh yeah, and by the way, that's 15 minutes simmering and covered. All right, see you in 15. All right, that's been simmering for 15 minutes. Ooh, there goes the steam. Give it a little stir. That is looking great. What I'm going to do now is going to add in the coconut milk. And let's make sure we get all that goodness out of there. All right, just stir that in. And probably gonna make sure it comes back up to heat here. About a minute. Probably not even that. It's looking pretty hot still. That is looking good. Let's have a little ladle full of that. Look at that. We got the chicken and rice and carrots and celery and apples and onions and coconut milk just added in now. Smelling great in here. Let's serve up a bowl. All right, we can turn that heat off now. It's pretty well warmed up. There we go. Mulligatawny soup. That's gonna warm you up. All right, if you like this recipe, well, stick around. There's a lot more here on Kuma's Kitchen, and they're all original Kevin Riley Kuma's Kitchen recipes. This was an original from way back, which has, well, been modified by me a few times. Also, make sure you subscribe because there's a new one coming out every Monday. And if you're not yet a patron of Kuma's Kitchen, well, consider becoming one. A little as $3 gets you in as a patron, helps support creation of all these videos, and also gets you all kinds of cool stuff in the patron community. All right, now go and make this wonderful mulligatawny soup and make cooking fun again with Kuma's Kitchen.